Okay, guys, so this one is going to be, obviously, as you know, not going to be directly coding itself, but as Ricardo said at the start of this boot camp, a lot of the factor that goes into getting a job in tech is knowing how to get a job in tech and the way you approach it, the way you behave in an interview, and your personality. Because at the end of the day, yes, we want to add value to an organization, but the best way for a company to do that is to identify you as someone that can do that, because on day one, or day zero, I should say, you're not necessarily going to be in a position to do that. So it's a very competitive market in the first 2 years of software development, because there's a lot of people that drop out of it, so the pool gets thinner. But a major reason for it in general is just demand is much bigger for software engineers with 2 or more years experience, simply because they add more value to a company compared to the junior. So for the first even just the first year, us finding a job will be tough, but after that, the market swings directly in our favor and you can get into insane bidding wars. So don't be too scared or alarmed by anything I talk about. Yes, it is competitive, but it's nothing that none of us will have, dealt with before. So I'm just trying to be comprehensive on this. Throughout the presentation, if anyone's got any questions, just please ask me. I want it to be as interactive as possible. We can go from there. So just to give you a bit of introduction to this. So in terms of my career, I graduated university with a business degree and then kind of fell into doing technical agency recruitment. So the way that works, if you're not familiar, is I would find companies that needed a software developer, and I would charge them a bounty basically of 15% of the end salary. So say if the engineer was making £50,000 a year, which is around what a mid-level engineer makes, then I would charge them £7,500. My employer would then take about 75% of that money, and then I would keep the other 25%. So it's not the most glamorous of jobs. It's quite hard work and quite cutthroat. So I did that for a while. Moved on to RecTech. So I worked for a company called Talent.io, who I'll mention in a bit. Which is basically a software platform that helps get engineers jobs. So that was much less cutthroat. I was selling it and providing recruitment advice to companies, and it was quite a nice middle ground between the two. After that, I decided to move internal as a consultant. So I worked directly for companies, inside companies, helping them scale the team and make engineering hires directly. I really enjoyed that because I was working directly with the CTO usually to come up with a plan to scale the team. Had I not decided to learn to code, I probably would be doing that for the rest of my career. So just as I touched on there, the external versus internal. There are 2 types of recruiters, apart from the RecTech, that you'll come across in the market, but treat the RecTech as external. So external, the key thing you have to remember here, these people primarily are doing it to earn commission. So their motivation is monetary. Whereas internal, they are not being paid a commission to hire you in most cases. As such, they want to hire the best person that will fit into their team, and they're looking out for their particular organization. As a result, and this is somewhat controversial, I would say trust the internal recruiter more and be very wary of an external recruiter. There are lots of great external recruiters out there, but I'm also going to explain a bit later on how to deal with that. Also going to explain a little bit on how to compete with CS grads. Other boot campers are our rivals, but however, the real big one is CS grads. These people with computer science degrees, are still, it's changing a bit, but they are still seen as the gold standard for juniors. However, you can combat that with the right approach. I'm also going to show you some sneaky tricks that other candidates aren't going to know about, that I only know about because of my previous career. Okay, cool. As I touched on before, here's some general advice. Agents, external, recruitment consultants, just look at the company they work for. It should be pretty obvious whether they're an agency or not. This is how you know whether you're dealing with a decent agent. So, first off, how long have they worked in recruitment itself? This sounds a bit mean. However, if you're dealing with someone that graduated, 3 months ago, or maybe was working in Topshop 6 months ago, chances are They won't have much experience in recruitment, and they might well be just farming for CVs, to be honest, and they might not even have a job available. So I'm very cautious about dealing with people that don't have much experience in recruitment. The other thing you want to watch out for as well is if they've job hopped a lot. So if you can see, every 9 months they change agencies. That invariably means they got sacked a lot, which means they're not very good. The best recruitment consultants are people that stay in one company a long time, because recruitment agencies, similar to tech companies, will do anything they can to keep hold of their good people, like how tech companies pay their software engineers a lot. Recruitment consultants, the very good ones, the 1%, get paid an awful lot of money and get to go on like all kinds of cool holidays and that sort of thing. But if you're in a company of like 100 people, it's literally like 2 people, and a lot of grads fall for it, including myself, who don't quite get to that point. Also, this is a little bit harsh, but if you speak to them on the phone, you get the used car salesman / double glazing salesman vibe. Just don't do it. It's not worth it, because trust your instincts. The other thing as well, never give any references, phone numbers, personal information, either of yourself or anyone else, without a confirmed interview. Never tell them any other interviews you have, because if they call you and say, oh yeah, you know, I want to know who else you're interviewing with, that maybe I can provide you some tips, or I want to make sure I don't send your CV to them, it's a lie, because I did it myself. We all did it. What we were trying to do was we were trying to find out who else was hiring, and the first thing they're going to do, as soon as they get off that call, they're going to find the hiring manager, get a bunch of your rivals' CVs and send them over. Suddenly you've got a ton of competition. So yeah, it's not great. However nice they may seem, remember their priority is their money. And if something smells like BS, it probably is, I'm afraid. Yep. Yeah, so if I understand you correctly, you say they put up fake adverts.
You try to find
Yeah.
companies to place people in.
Yeah.
To get CVs.
Yeah. People put up fake adverts. I had managers tell me to put. I never did it myself, but I had a lot of managers tell me to put up fake adverts, and then if a candidate applied for it, we'd lie and say like, oh yeah, no, we don't have this right now. However, it's good that I have your details. I'm going to look for jobs for you. In return, can you give me a reference just so I can verify you're someone worth working with? That person then would try and give someone a reference, which would be the phone number of an old manager. The recruiter would call the manager and just sell to them. So it's not great. And that's not just as a junior, that's all the way through. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Some agents are good people and some are very good at the job. However, just be wary. There are a lot of cowboys out there. Moving away from me slagging off agencies, you need to check a company's Glassdoor. Just to get a rough idea, put your hand up if you know what Glassdoor is. Okay, so it's actually probably only about a third of you. So Glassdoor is a very useful website. Glassdoor is where employees can leave reviews of a company. So, for example, if you've left, you can rate them on a number of factors and leave a review. So go through those and don't just look at the good one, because companies can and do lie on their Glassdoors by getting employees to write false reviews and that kind of thing. So check the negative ones and check the positive ones. So don't just look at the positive. So just give you a live Glassdoor example. So does anyone have a company they're quite curious about finding out more about? Netflix. Nice suggestion. I bet theirs is quite good, because I happen to know they pay a lot of money. It would be helpful if I wasn't searching for jobs and I was searching for company reviews instead. Cool. Okay, great suggestion, Max, because they got 972 reviews, so we've got a lot of details here. The other good thing about why I suggested Netflix is because they've not just got London, so you can then check if it's London that the person's reviewing at. So we can see 3.9 star average, which is not bad with that kind of volume. You can see some sum ups here. People say it's a good company, but there's some negative ones. How much does a functioning employee cost? Pros, paycheck. I mean, yeah, fair enough. But if I'm looking at this, I'm probably thinking, okay, this is going to be, there's some orange flags here, so to speak, not a red flag. If I'm going there, I think the money's going to be good, but there might be some weird cultural aspects, according to the Glassdoor. However, this is not the sort of thing that I would then not work for. If there are a ton of 1-star reviews and a ton of 5-star reviews, that is your danger sign. Because in that situation, what's happening there is basically what they've done is someone's left them a load of 1-star reviews, so they've peppered it with 5-star reviews themselves. So look at the discrepancy. If the average is something like 3.9, that's actually a really good sign, because every single company is going to have a few disgruntled employees. So yeah, LinkedIn Premium. So I'm going to touch a bit more on LinkedIn. You'll get prompted a lot for LinkedIn Premium. Whatever you do, just don't pay for it, because it's not that good. However, if you get a free trial, take the free trial. Just put a note in your calendar to cancel it when you can. It's pretty good. It means you don't have to have any search restrictions. That being said, I doubt you're going to run up against too many issues there. How long is the free trial? 1 month. Yeah. So what I would suggest is most of us aren't going to start searching until January anyway. Just on January the 2nd, sign up, and then you've got until February the 2nd to use it. Just make sure you cancel it before then. It's not bad. It's not going to hurt your job search, but it's going to help it maybe 1%. But you got to take all the tools you have. So yeah, just to explain a little bit more about this. Who's got LinkedIn in this room? Hands up. Still not everyone, but it's most people. Yeah. If you don't have it, just get it, because it's an absolute prerequisite. I'll be willing to bet that 99% of people who get a job as a junior have a LinkedIn, because it's the main tool recruiters use, to be totally honest. So I really recommend you use it. You won't need to use as much, you get more senior, but I still recommend using it all the way through your career. So just to give you an idea, I know I've put that at the bottom, Jack's workshop. So he was on the previous cohort. He was also an ex-recruiter. He's done a whole workshop on making good LinkedIn profile. So I won't go too in deep on it, because you can watch his, because it's really good. However, just to give you an idea, this is my profile. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point, Max. So actually, that's how I approach this. So the first thing I'm looking at, does the person have a picture? If someone doesn't have a picture, it can mean all kinds of things. It's usually, it's not, it's just you're more likely to reach out to someone if they have a picture. It's a psychological thing. So name, use your real name. Most people do. Occasionally people put some weird nickname on there. Just don't do that, it's a bit weird. Headline here. So in this situation, I am not putting technical recruiter, even though it was my last job. I'm putting full stack software engineer, and I'm seeking roles to start in Jan 2020. The reason why I've done that is because this is one of the first things you see. So it pops up here. For example, this guy, you can see his headline is he's a recruitment consultant, or this guy, front-end developer. And Zara is popped up on here, saying she's a React developer, which is great. The only other thing I'd add on there, Zara, if you're online now, is just add that you're looking for opportunities in January or whenever. You have an about section, and you have open opportunities, so just fill that in, and then just fill in this, explain, it doesn't have to be long, explain the current situation. I've got 4 lines about my career ambitions, and then I've got a final line about, making me a bit more human, because you don't want to seem like you're only coding all day, every day. You can attach links here, so I've got a link to my GitHub, which you can find. Just a quick note on GitHub as well, you can kind of game it a little bit. Oh God, that's a bit zoomed in on my face. Right, apologies everyone for having to see a zoomed in picture of my face there. Recruiters look for one thing on GitHub. They look for a lot of these squares. And in their mind, a lot of them think in their mind that lots of contributions means you're a really good developer. So if you don't have many contributions, don't actually link your GitHub. Wait until you get more contributions and then link it. 815 contributions in the last year. Even if half of that is me breaking and unbreaking my code, that is, that's going to look quite good to a recruiter, weirdly, even despite the fact it's loads of corrections. So. This is quite handy. You can see who's viewed your profile. I can't because I'm in private. I'm in private mode. But if you're in premium, you can see that, which is helpful. You can monitor how well your recent posts have done. So, for example, I've made a post up here explaining that I'm looking for jobs. I've got a decent reach, 2,200 or so. So just it's a good way to keep yourself out there. You can write articles to get a bit of reach. I've done that. Just make sure that your experience is full. Don't go into unnecessary depth on in jobs that didn't matter that much. For example, here No one really cares about when I was working as an agency recruiter, so I've literally got one line just explaining what I was doing. And then in education, if you have so what I would recommend with Kadiri is put it as a job, and then also as well put it as a university as well. So I have my business degree at the top just because it's kind of what happens there is people look for the university and they like it when it's a traditional university that comes up first. But I've also put Kadiri, and also I did a couple of modules in free co-camp. I've added in some certifications that I got from Co-Academy. This stuff, skill and endorsement, I'm going to be real, don't even bother because no one looks at it. You can get recommendations. I actually don't have any, even though I've given some, so people aren't returning the favour. For example, my friend Mark, who works for Tesco, we went to uni together. I wrote a little recommendation for him because he was trying to get a job when he graduated, and now he works for Tesco. Also, put any languages that you speak. I speak a bit of German, so that's on there, but not very well. But yeah, I know some of you guys speak a decent number of languages. That's really actually helpful, particularly a lot of time if they have like offshore teams and that kind of thing. It's really good to be able to communicate effectively. In fact, when I was an agent, I once worked with a guy who was Bulgarian, and the company ended up hiring him. The thing that pushed it over the edge was they had a little offshore development center in Bulgaria, and they realized that this guy and them could communicate really effectively. So it was a nice bridge. So you never know, these kind of little things might pop up. So I would also recommend, along with LinkedIn, signing up to services like Co-Hire, Talent.io. Disclaimer, I used to work for Talent.io for 2 years. Hired when you feel ready. Kind of in addition to that disclaimer, if you end up getting a job through Talent.io, they will pay me. I will give you half of that fee. But I just want to be totally upfront about that. Because I don't want to look like I'm scamming anyone. So they'll give me £500 and I'll give you 250 and keep the other 250 for myself. If anyone wants to find out more about that, just ask me. Okay, so this is how your average Joe gets a job. So average Joe, junior MERN stack developer. MERN, if anyone doesn't know, is what we know: MongoDB, Express.js, React.js, Node.js. He's a MERN stack developer, nice bloke, tad naive, unfortunately. So Joe looks on Indeed and applies to everything. Indeed is literally the worst job board on the planet. Anyone can put anything up for free. As a result, you end up with a bunch of terrible jobs, fake jobs, and you're also competing against everyone in the world because it's got the lowest barriers to entry. He also submits a CV with no cover letter or with errors. And you know what? I'm going to be totally honest. I got rejected from a job this morning. So if you saw me looking a bit annoyed, the reason why I got rejected from a job this morning was that I accidentally wrote that I finished this course in December 2020 instead of 2019. And the CTO emailed me and he said, "I'm sorry, but you clearly don't have enough attention to detail, so I'm going to reject you off the bat for that." And you know what? I can be annoyed about it, but it's fair enough. And so, guys, check and triple check, because now I'm worrying how many people I've sent that to. So yeah, please do not make my mistake. Joe doesn't know what LinkedIn is, let alone a good profile. Already touched upon that. Joe hasn't bothered updating his GitHub or portfolio. Portfolio is something both Graham and Ricardo have mentioned. Try and do something a little bit different. Like I know most of you guys have seen the command line thing that I have on mine. A little bit of animation, a little bit of something like that that's not actually that hard to implement absolutely blows recruiters' socks off because they think it's much more advanced than it actually is. If you want a good example, I saw a portfolio of a React developer once who had a picture of himself, and if you move the mouse around the screen like this, the picture of himself is in the center, and he would change the picture so that he was looking at, this is very hard to demonstrate, so that he was looking at the cursor. So for example, if it was here, his head would be doing up. Sorry if you're not in the room or can't see me. Or here, he'd be doing that. It's really cool, really funny, made everyone in the office laugh, we're all sharing it. So, as soon as we had a React job available, everyone immediately went for this guy. In fact, I can literally remember his name now, and that was 2 years ago. That's how memorable it was. So yeah, the other thing as well Joe doesn't keep track. You can't be doing that. So this is how I keep track. Trello, if you're not using it already. I keep track of what agencies I'm using, what jobs I've applied to. Please don't apply for all the jobs I've applied for. Who I'm on hold with until New Year in my case, who rejected me, and who I'm currently interviewing with. So that's really simple. You can drag and drop, just leave comments. It's just for your own sanity, really, and just make sure you're not not repeating yourself or anything like that. This is a bit sociopathic, I think. I have a spreadsheet of 250 contacts I've made in my career, who could be potentially the sort of people that I could contact again for a potential dev job. So try and make a spreadsheet like this. You never know who you might know. Family, relatives, friends, people that you met at the pub once, anyone. Getting referred in is the best way to get a job. I cannot emphasize that enough. If Joe doesn't do any of these things, he spends a lot of time at the job centre, and you don't want to spend a lot of time at the job centre. You want to spend a lot of time coding. Cool. So this is how Kadiri grads get a job, because we are the kings and queens of the development world. So step one, we find the jobs no one else knows about. 80% of jobs are not advertised. Why? Because a lot of the time people have it in that pipeline and they haven't got around to advertising yet. So we're going to find recruiters at companies that you want to work for. Now, this is a part that I would maybe say I'm conscious of accidentally revealing someone's personal information. So if we cut the YouTube live stream for